history of sports, and he still works out in a public gym. In Mike's world, things are never as they seem. Never. Las Vegas is his last remaining palace. Just like Mike, it is unfulfilled promise, suffering from neglect.
People should try being me, you know what I mean? The world I've come from, I've been abused and used. Any way a person could be abused and used. I don't want to look like some enraged animal and stuff. I want to hang out and love life. But I'm not going to tolerate nobody push me around like I'm a chump.
After the next Lewis fight, he was just, I don't know, totally different. He was more humble.
A guy you're expected to destroy? You're headed back to Memphis. Back to a place of bad memories.
Mike Tyson returning to the scene of his worst performance.
And when the week began, we weren't even sure there would be a fight. Tyson needs to win big and make a powerful statement.
Tyson risks cuts and infection by getting a tattoo on his face only 11 days before the bout.
Billions of people outside with tattoos on their face. I got a tattoo and I'm not finished. I had to stop because people were complaining. So when I get finished, then you talk about my tattoo. And this is nothing. This is not even halfway done.
Did speak to Shelly Finkel, Mike Tyson's manager. He did tell me that Mike spent most of the day today in seclusion, very focused, much, much different than when he was here in June against Lennox Lewis. In fact, he said, I wished he'd have had this attitude and this focus going into that fight.
You want to talk to me? What do you want to do with me? You watch my eating techniques here? I gorge the chicken. I eat like a barracuda. Thank you very kindly. I have no etiquette skills whatsoever. I hate Mike Tyson, so I don't like Mike Tyson, so I mostly wish the worst for Mike Tyson. So I don't get caught up with Mike Tyson. That's probably why I don't like my friends and my fans. I'm a pretty decent individual, but sometimes I go to the deep end. Sometimes I think I come across too hard, too tough, so people think they see how up I am for all these years and nobody even consider helping. And even if I'm embarrassed to accept it, can't they, if I'm friendly enough, can't they please get somebody to help? Can't they get them, put me in a sane asylum or a mental ward or whatever place I need to be in, a hospital or just a psychiatrist? I'm just going to extremes what to do, but I don't know, but you know. Everybody, I don't see them for weeks, girls, I can't ever get their numbers. They call me always the day of the fight, the week before the fight. It kills me. I'm never gonna these girls because if I don't them the day before the fight or something like that, I'm never gonna see them again. So I just really, maybe in my next life, I'll have a better life. And that's why I'm just looking forward to go to the other world. Because I really hate the way I live now, and I hate my life now.
Factors over the names and the means.
I'm working at another job. None of my friends have any respect for me. Love is respect, I think. I think love is respect. Now, most of these people love me. I got people that live like me, got $2 million houses, mansions. It's so easy to love a person like that. They haven't seen me when I'm homicidal, suicidal, just totally off the rock. The more my bank account grows, the more feelings I lose. The more intimacy I lose, the more respect I lose for women. I probably cheated on every woman I ever been with.
Good luck. Good luck to you, Mike.
Probably never respect them because I probably never respect myself. I never understood dignity.
He spoke to me.
I want to, but I just don't have love for anybody. I don't love any woman I ever been with. Isn't that crazy? Never love them.
20 seconds. After the big fight, it's going on. It's the biggest after party, the biggest club. Denim and Diamond.
And do you know what time it is? Danger! What time is it? Danger!
Making his way to the ring, the most exciting fighter of his generation. Please welcome Iron Mike Tyson.
It's over! And he's helped up by Tyson. Opening minute of the fight.
Rising from the ashes that night, Mike Tyson was reborn as a fighter. At least it seemed that way.
I've been doing this for probably 23 to 25 years, and I haven't received any dignity from it. I've received a lot of pain from it. I'd have probably received it just in my average everyday life if I didn't fight, but it's just, it made me not like Mike Tyson no more. So when your guys show me love, I hate you, because I don't like myself. So we got a little, I got to catch 22 within my own identity, you know what I mean? That's how come I'm very harsh, because I'm not happy with myself. I don't care if I live and die. I don't give a about any of y'all, but I do.
Hi, Gina.
You saw Daddy fight?
Yeah,
Were you happy?
yeah.
All right, we're gonna try to keep him like that, short, and get him out of there, right? Okay, I'm letting my baby go back to sleep. I just wanted to tell her I love her, and I want to tell other knuckleheads I said hi.
Well, I tried to wake them up, but they were out.
Yeah, I know them. They ain't going nowhere.
Good job.
Take care.
I really have nothing to lose in my life. I have nothing. I lost my soul as a human being. I lost my self-respect. Pulling out my gun at people, and now I'm getting ready to fight a guy head up with rules now. He might beat my ass. This white boy might beat the out of me because of the popular. You don't know your doesn't matter about you being big, strong, or not. You fighting a skinny white boy. This is a disciplined sport.
Hey, Cuss. 8-second knockout, the first round. 8-second knockout. The right hand. The official came over to him and said, you just set a record. Fastest knockout ever.
To the outside world, it seemed like boxing's version of a fairy tale. But again, in Mike's world, things are never as they seem.
Tyson started having problems in school with kids and with teachers and getting in trouble. There was over 100 reports of girls in one way or another being not treated right, being abused. That stuff was kept quiet because Cuz had some meetings with people in the school and convinced them that Tyson was going to make the town famous. Eventually he was permanently expelled from school. Cuz told him that, hey, If they kick you out, don't worry about it, I'll get you a tutor. And the problem was he didn't get him a tutor, he didn't get his GED, because they didn't care about it. You know, I mean, he was knocking guys out.
He's not this animal, you know, that people think he is. He's just a beautiful person with a big heart, very giving and sensitive and emotional. I know his past and, you know, it's there. You can't just overlook it. I'm here to show him that there's people he can trust, because it's very hard for him to trust people. You know, he's been burnt a lot. And people used to look at him as an easy target. They were like, you know, he's someone that, he has so much money, he's always throwing it around. I might as well get a piece of it. You know, that's how people looked at it. He's got a lot of love to give, and people don't know that. So I know that I'm that person. I'm here to make him happy.
I'm glad the fact she said she's in love. Then again, you know, all this stuff, all these goodies and stuff, it's easy to love this stuff. You know what I mean? Let us see a couple of my episodes, a couple more of my episodes, and we'll find out.
What does a man do to himself when he gets ready to fight another man? Tuning the body is one thing, but getting your mind there is something else. And then you gotta go back. It doesn't matter that you're fighting some guy named...
I'm not a lovable guy, so it's really not hard for people to dislike me. I'm just a decent person. I just want to love everybody, but first you have to love me too. A lot of times I just hate myself. Sometimes I think about some of the things I've done to people and some of the ways I hurt people.
Sometimes the journey home shows you where that hate and that hurt comes from.
We were just poor black kids just that no one cared about, so we didn't care about anyone either. I was just a monster as a kid. The beast survived, you know, the toughest survived, the meanest. You have to be willing to do what no one else would do. Mean, ferocious, bloodthirsty, you just have to be the man. My sister and brother, they used to kick at me all the time.
That could really fool you.
So stretch him out.
Into forgetting that he was still a kid who had to develop. Developed as he was physically, he was lacking emotionally.
Look, just relax, Michael, relax, just relax. Just relax. Relax. Yeah, but just relax. Just relax.
I'm when we first started.
Yeah, well, just relax. Don't get so tense. Relax. All of this is another boxing match. You've done it already 20 times. You've done it in the gym with better fighters than you're ever gonna fight here.
He's unsure of himself. He wants to be reaffirmed that this is worthwhile, that he is worthwhile, that he has merit, that he can handle this.
Yeah.
I'm like Tyson. Everybody likes me.
Yeah, everyone likes you now. That's right. You have reason to be proud.
I feel an affection for him, that I want him to be okay. I want him to not just win physically, but win emotionally. I want him to be able to get through this.
Let's go get ready for a fight. Come on.
I was just 15. This is big time event. I'm emotionally frayed.
Just like sledgehammers.
I'm feeling real white and happy. It was ironic because my mother was sick. But I almost forgot about my mother because I was living upper middle class life. I'm in my white world. And then Cuss tells me about my mother's situation with the cancer, and I don't understand it. And so I go down, I go to the hospital, and I see my mother. I had no idea. I've seen movies, I've never saw anyone sick with cancer, so I expect to see, well, you know, I love you, but I'm a goner now, Johnny. I'm used to seeing movies. I'm actually to go there and witness my mother stricken with this illness. It was over. Wow, man. Oh, man, the sunken eyes, the skeleton-like head with the skin tightly around the the cranium, it was, whoa, man, it was mind-boggling. So, and she was briefly naked. You could see her breath, and I didn't understand. I just didn't understand that the whole scenario there was, I covered up, I kissed her, I never returned, but I kept telling my sister, hey, I'm going there every day. I've been going every day, but I was out getting high and drinking every night because that that took me for, man, I smoked Angel. I really did, man, cocaine. Man, I must have been 15. I blew my mind. So one day, my sister came home, and I was slept because I was hungover and everything. So I was sleeping. I was in my underwear, and I was walking. I guess to open the door for her, and as soon as I open the door, she punches me right in my face. Bam! And she said, "Why didn't you tell me Mommy was dead?" And I said, "Oh." And I didn't want to get killed right there, so I said, "I didn't want to hurt you. I couldn't tell you. I went there, but I never went." And I don't know. I couldn't even go down and witness the body, but my cousin Eric went with her. It was wild. I ain't never want to do that. That poor. I'm not into that. So that was just that was interesting. That was just interesting in my life. That was just a turning point. That was what happened. That poor that I was gonna be famous and rich. You ever seen a grinder? You know the grinder that you take a wood and you put it in and it comes out the other end and shreds? That's my heart. It's grounded beef. I don't strike people as the guy that somebody wants to take care of, or he's weak, or we can help him, he's the underdog. I've never been looked at like that. I'm a big black nigga, semi-beast, so be careful. He doesn't need help, he needs to be locked up. When my mother died, that just really overwhelmed me. I didn't even care. I lived in this play world, and it was overwhelming me. It was really crushing me at the time.
In the fall of 1982, Cus D'Amato became Tyson's legal guardian. Cus's companion, Camille Ewald, became his surrogate mother.
Cus was saying, you're not in jail no more. You have a chance to make yourself something productive here. But in the same breath, we're still showing him you were still going to get away with things that someone else couldn't get away with. You were still going to break the rules because you could punch and because now you had the ability to be a world champion fighter. And Cus was playing a dangerous game, I thought.
Teddy had married a young lady. We were all kids then, and he had a sister-in-law that was a young girl, and we were all friends, and I guess I was a young boy, and I was fresh, and I grabbed her butt.
She was 11 years old, and she was part of my family, my wife's family, and he kind of cornered her into a situation outside the gym in the town, and this wouldn't be tolerated. I went and found him, and I put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger back and told him that he would never put his hands on anyone in my family or do anything like that to anyone in my family again, or he'd be dead. Just to make sure he understood, I stuck the gun in his ear and then pulled it out of his ear and shot it off. He crumbled away, and I told him, don't make the mistake again. Understand that you're not ever going to violate anyone in my family, ever, ever.
Teddy Atlas never saw Mike Tyson or Cus D'Amato again. Kevin Rooney took over as Tyson's trainer.
If you can hit me, I'm gonna get the full impact. You gotta wait on top of the head.
Keep the head down when you come up with the age. Keep your head down. Yeah, I mean, it's not coming up, it's starting to come up. You can make it perfect. It's good, but it's not perfect.
In March of '85, at the age of 18, Tyson turned pro. The first-round knockout became his trademark, and the TV commentators began equating him with animals.
Power already for Mike Tyson. Look at the size of him. He looks like the Incredible Hulk.
Every punch Tyson throws is meant to knock you out.
In the truest sense, he's an animal.
What a specimen by Mike Tyson here.
My brother was always a genius. Everybody in the block loved him.
And what they say about you?
I was a good piece of piece of I started breaking houses in Brooklyn. I like the armed robberies. You have to go where the money's at. You have to go in the stores and houses and stuff. I was more inclined to that kind of stuff when I was a child. My mother, my brother, my sister would never steal. They would prefer to beg. They embarrassed me a lot because they were too honest. I got a lot of beatings, a lot of real horrific beatings. I was very afraid all the time. My mother may throw hot scalding water on her boyfriend. Her boyfriend may beat her and fracture her eye socket or something, or break her finger. Emotions was high, and they're hating one another, then they're back at loving one another, and you're talking about dysfunctionality at its highest level. The strongest woman figure in our life is our mother, and normally most young black inner city kids see that figure destroyed by a black man, so I don't know, maybe hold some kind of hatred for our mother's boyfriend or black men in general.
By age 13, he was locked up, but the abuse didn't stop in jail.
I wasn't really abused by the kids, mostly by the staff members. They beat the out of me. I think I deserved, at least 95% of the beatings. I used to always fight back. I wasn't always successful, but I always fought back.
Tyson was sent to a detention center 100 miles from Brooklyn, not far from a town called Catskill, where an old boxing legend toiled in obscurity in a gym above a local police station.
I go, that's it. No, do it the other way.
Cus D'Amato had turned around street kids before. He had trained the youngest heavyweight champion ever, Floyd Patterson.
We get a phone call from this Bobby Stewart, who was an amateur fighter, and he was a guard in a correctional facility. He called Cus one day and said, I got this young kid up here who never boxed or nothing, doesn't know anything, but he gets in trouble.
That's it.
I was wondering.
He even posed like the old-time fighters he saw in the movies.
I have a goal that me, Cus, Jim Jacobs, and my trainer Kevin Rooney all planned, and God forbid, if anything happened to Cus, we're all professionals, and we're going to continue, and the outcome is going to be the same.
I often say to him, I owe you a lot. He doesn't know what I mean, but I'm going to tell him now what I mean. Because if he weren't here, I probably wouldn't be alive today. The fact that he is here and doing what he's doing, and doing as well as he's doing, and improving as he has, gives me the motivation and interest to stay alive.
and I will stay alive, and I will watch him become a success, because I will not leave until that happens.
He was a cold old man that'd been through a lot. I wish he lived long enough. I just wish he lived long enough.
Customata was 77 when he died in 1985. He was the only father Mike had ever known. Now what do you do? Who do you trust? Who do you believe? You're an alien in your own world. Enter Jim Jacobs, Cuss's confidant and financial backer. Jacobs had paid for Tyson's bills all along, but now he had to lend his emotions. Tyson embraced him as his protector.
Tyson knew nothing about.
1988 became a blur of embarrassments and disasters for the champ. Just 2 months after the triumph of the Spinks fight and the break from his longtime manager and trainer, Tyson was arrested after breaking his hand in a street brawl with Mitch Green, a boxer he'd beaten 2 years earlier in the ring. The argument had begun inside a boutique in Harlem. Green, verbally, hit directly at Tyson's weak spot.
He's a young, dumb knucklehead that got to ask his wife for permission to do whatever he do. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Mitch Green wasn't the only one saying it. And it seemed Tyson would have to choose between his old friends and his new wife. Robin Givens was saying his manager, Bill Caton, had cheated him, that he needed to change the people handling his career. What wasn't widely known was that she and her mother had been getting advice from Don King, the colorful and controversial boxing promoter. King is painted by Tyson's early friends as one of the principal villains in the story.
And it was almost as if Robin Givens was the jab that set him up for the right hand of Don King.
I'm a controversial figure because I succeed in spite of, not because of. Many people that has been beleaguered with the problems that I've been assaulted and assailed with, I would have been gone a long time ago. They wouldn't even be here.
Don King had become Tyson's new father figure. If Tyson had spent his life in search of someone to replace the dad he'd never had, friends say, starting from when he was very young, often his choices didn't work out.
When you're out in the street looking for guidance, who do you get it from? I know it's easy to get attached to people. Sometimes you realize later in life that your friends were really your worst enemies.
Mike Tyson was the world heavyweight champion. And on the streets of Brownsville, where he'd spent his early years, there were murals. Had a miscarriage shortly thereafter. Despite that, there were hopes in the Tyson camp that the marriage to the actress would work out.
Of course, the idea of Mike being married was something that appealed to me. I felt it would give him a certain stability. He was a womanizer. There's no other word to describe him. He loved women, and women loved him. And I felt that this was a good step. I was all in favor of his marriage.
The tabloid headlines were still to come. The published reports of fights in the Bernardsville, New Jersey mansion Givens and Tyson had bought. Tyson, though, was already telling his friends that the marriage wasn't working. And those who spent time with Tyson daily saw a dangerous trend, with Robin Givens and her mother taking over.
He beats Tubbs. On the plane ride back, Robin Givens and Ruth Roper announced, I'm Mrs. Tyson. Everything goes through me. And they start spending his money.
Before they got married, she was terrific. She was kind, she was warm, she was considerate. But once they got married, she announced, I'm Mrs. Mike Tyson, and I'm taking over. And when I heard that, I knew we were in trouble. I knew Mike was in trouble. I said, this is going to be bad. This is bad. This is bad. And from then on, she tried to pull him away. And in Tokyo, in '88, after 1 month of marriage, he came in the room one day and started crying. And he put his head on my shoulder. I said, what's the matter? And he said, I made a mistake. I said, what? He said, I shouldn't have gotten married. This is bad. I shouldn't have got married. I said, Mike, everything's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. I was wrong. I was wrong.
Just how wrong was becoming clear. Tyson and Givens were driving one of his Bentleys when they started arguing. Tyson became so angry that he jumped out of the vehicle and told surprised police officers they could keep it, though the next day he sent an aide to get it back. In training, Tyson looked great as he prepared for another title defense. But outside of the gym, things were getting badly out of control. Robin Givens' mother, Ruth Roper, was painted in newspaper stories as the architect of a scheme to grab Tyson's millions. Givens rushed to her mother's defense on live television.
I plan to be here today because I'm angry, because my mother, who has been the best mother and clearly become Michael's mother, and if you can just see their relationship, it's a beautiful relationship, is really being crushed by all of this.
Sensational charges flew. Allegations that Givens and her mother were trying to eliminate the people who'd brought Tyson to greatness. Givens portrayed herself as a loyal wife, trying to protect her husband against boxing sharks, who she claimed were stealing Tyson's money. With a vicious behind-the-scenes battle for control, only in the ring did Tyson seem safe. But that, too, would change.
His fight with Spinks, he may have been one of the two best heavyweights of all time. The moves he made in that fight were extraordinary to knock out Spinks, who was a very capable fighter in 91 seconds. But then he fired Kevin. He broke off from me.
Ruth Roper hits Bill Caton with a lawsuit the day of the fight.
I met this white guy. He was strange, a little odd, and he started saying things like, wow, you could be the greatest fighter ever lived, and you're great. I'm thinking he's like some old pervert guy. I'm saying, okay, cool.
I knew Cus was thinking, wow, I got somebody to be young about again, to have some hope. But Cus didn't want to wait. He was an older man who years earlier had fame, but didn't have it for a long time, had money, but didn't have it for a long time. And now he saw a chance to have it again, but he wasn't young, and he had to speed it up.
When he came, actually, I talked to him and treated him like everybody else. He had to go through the same thing of preparing about the mind and the body and so forth and so on.
He has basically destroyed me of all my habits and, yes, reformed me.
Remember, from the side, you can let that punch go with the worst kind of intention.
He's my first exposure to a white guy who didn't judge me.
With all the power you can generate.
I was madly in love with Cus D'Amato. I became, he broke me down and rebuilt me back up, and I became totally loyal to him. I became his slave. I was a young kid at the time. I just wanted to love him forever. I wanted him to be my father.
Put that front of cuff machine.
He just got dark.
Meatloaf's good.
Good, good. She always makes very good meatloaf. I don't generally eat meatloaf.
It's the second time these two men have fought. In their first fight, November 25th, 1938, at Madison Square Garden in New York.
It's a good fight. Be champ of the world someday. Just keep your mind where it's supposed to be.
Each week I teach him something new. First week I teach him how to slip punch. Second week I teach him how to weave hooks. Each time he come back, you could see he learned real fast because he was interested.
Straight over, nice and straight.
Cus had it in his mind to make sure he concentrated on the most evident thing, that he could punch, and he was going to be a knockout artist. He had this...
And there's Cus, this then, 72-year-old old Italian guy from the Belmont section of the Bronx who's thinking his career was over. He had these two great champions in the 50s, Jose Torres and Floyd Patterson, and now he just was working with amateurs and delinquent kids, and he gets a new lease on life. Bobby Stewart brings him this unmistakable prodigy who's a monster in the gym. And I think that prolonged Cus's life and saved Mike's life.
Tyson's new surrogate family was headed by D'Amato, who was already a boxing legend, having trained 2 world champions. When D'Amato talked, people in the fight business listened. Reporters and camera crews visited the small gym and Catskill home regularly. They saw that Tyson had immense potential, and they noticed he wasn't the typical rough street kid.
Mike was shy. He was quiet. He was affectionate. He would come up to Camille in the kitchen and give her a hug, or even with the other boxers. And in the documentary that we made, there's a time when he takes this kid, Frankie, and just goes like this with him. And he could be playful, and he could be moody. You know, he'd be, you know, sad some days, happy others. And he was very determined about his, the way he was in the gym. He had a lot of concentration in the gym. And he was very fast.
When you walk into the house, there's a kitchen table, and there's like a bench. It's further that goes around this way. And Mike is sitting there. And I look at him, and he's glaring at me. I look at this kid, and you know, I thought he was probably like 18 or 20 years old. And then when they told me he was only 13, I just couldn't believe it.
I love boxing too, and I like doing it for myself. But you know, I feel so bad, you know, like if anything go wrong, when I look sloppy, so many people that, you know, help me and everything to get me up here, and I just don't want to let them down.
I can remember Mike asking me to borrow my bicycle. And I said, sure, you can take a ride on my bicycle. And he was looking, you know, he just couldn't believe that I would give him my bicycle. And then he broke the pedal, you know, and he was just waiting for me to, I guess, to explode. And when I said, don't worry about it, Mike, it's no big thing, it's just a pedal. And you could just see, he was just shocked that someone, you know, would do things like that for him.
That's it. See, ain't no way he's going to hit you then, right? And remember, it's always good to throw the punch where you could hit him and he can't hit you. That's what the science of boxing
trained
is
to
all
get
about.
away from punches, not only defensively to save himself, but to create openings for his power and for his speed. And he was taught that specific style, to elude punches, to slip the straight, and to weave the round. And to explode punches in the opening.
I remember Cuz showing him how to throw the uppercut with the proper snap. And Mike would come right over here in the mirror and just practice it.
9 days after Cus died, Tyson was back in the ring. And the knockouts continued. Undefeated after 27 pro fights, Mike Tyson would get his title shot. A day with destiny at the age of 20.
I'm born to destroy. I'm born to be champion. You know, I was just some big gorilla knocking everybody out. Didn't stand for anything, didn't really care about anything. Just want to fight everybody, the good people, the bad people, everybody. Just hate you all. You know, just you.
Fighting out of Catskill, New York, with 27 wins, no defeats, 25 KOs, he is the challenger, Mike Tyson.
With the heavyweight championship crown came all the jewels, the million-dollar mansions and luxury cars and beautiful women. So how could this legendary champ who fought so hard, who achieved so much, end up losing it all both in and out of the ring? Let's look behind the tabloid headlines and discover how this great fighter became the fallen champ.
And Tyson was never meant to be a great champion. He didn't have the character. He was meant to be a shooting star. He was meant to be a sensational shooting star.
It was like watching a pilot for a movie. Here's this kid, 13 years old. He's in reformatory. His life is about to head towards Attica or death.
He was a great, great boxer.
Walked the cuss was taking my gloves off. I said, what do you think? He said, it's the heavyweight champion of the world.
That was a right to the body and an uppercut to the head, and Berbick is down.
And he's down again and in serious trouble.
He cannot control his temper.
Mrs. Tyson did not want to sign a domestic violence complaint.
He was a womanizer. There's no other way to describe him. He loved women, and women loved him.
And I was like, hey, no, get off me, please, get off me. And he was like, don't fight me, don't fight me.
And I think that Mike Tyson is unjustly incarcerated. I think in Mike Tyson's particular case, the due process was derailed. We got to put it back on track again.
I was asked, after 3 years in prison, could Mike Tyson beat Lennox Lewis? And I said, Mike Tyson can beat Lennox Lewis after 3 minutes in the electric chair.
And I still believe I'm the best fighter in the world.
Michael Gerard Tyson was born into crushing poverty on June 30th, 1966. Tyson doesn't like to talk about his early days on the streets of a Brooklyn ghetto. There are no pictures of his mother, Lorna, but Michael was the third child in the family fathered by Jimmy Kirkpatrick. Kirkpatrick never married Lorna Tyson, so it was her last name that he was given. The Tysons, close to destitute, lived in Brownsville, one of Brooklyn's toughest neighborhoods, before Mike's second birthday. And some would say Tyson spent most of his first 25 years searching for a father figure to replace him. Young Mike was physically huge, but he had a sensitive nature, a high-pitched voice, and a lisp. The other children in the neighborhood picked on him mercilessly, taunting him with the name Big Head Mike. Friends say Tyson probably started fighting on the street as a matter of self-preservation as much as anything else. Perhaps it was for food and money to survive. Perhaps it was rage born out of the teasing and taunting he'd endured. Tyson turned to muggings and robberies and would be arrested several times before the age of 12.
Mike says when he was 9 years old, he was hanging out with kids 13, 14 years old because he was physically their size, but mentally, he wasn't there.
He talked a lot about, seemingly unashamedly, about some of the bad things he did, mugging old ladies and doing, pulling off these mugging incidents, and as if, this is me and this was part of me, and take it for what it's worth.
Tyson was in and out of reformatories, winding up in the Tryon School for Boys in upstate Johnstown, New York. Tyson had already decided he wanted to be a boxer and asked to see a staff member named Bobby Stewart, who'd been a professional and who taught at the facility. Stewart told the 12-year-old if he wanted to box, he'd have to straighten out. The words changed Tyson's life forever.
I remember him the first time I saw him, they were marching through the biggest staff on campus. We're marching him through from their place to ours. They said, he's coming. We had to put him in a holding room, lockup room. And they said, Stewie, to me, they said, he's bad. He's uncontrollable, fighting everything. He doesn't go his way. He said, Mr. Stewart, he said, I want to become a fighter. And I said, yeah, so are the rest of you guys. I said, but if you look, it takes you got to be a fighter. You got to be tough, disciplined. He said, you obviously aren't, or you wouldn't be here in the first place. And I said, I'll work with you. I said, if your behavior continues, one slip, I said, and you're done. I'm not going to spend my time. So it was just remarkable. I told him, when you go to school, I said, I don't care if you flunk every subject, but you behave. You behave, you don't act out, and you try.
For 12-year-old Mike Tyson, perfecting the moves he learned from Stewart became an obsession. Long after lights out in the reform school, guards would hear Tyson grunting as he practiced into the night in the dark in his room. Perfecting technique became Tyson's obsession, and it didn't stop when he left trying, as Stewart found out when they went back into the ring.
He hit me with a jab. I'd never been hit with a jab like that ever. It rocked me, but I couldn't let him know. I grabbed him and tied him up, and so I acted like nothing went on. Boom, hit me again. Again, I tied him. I don't think he knew, because I wouldn't let on. If I let on, I couldn't let him overtake the staff.
Bobby Stewart had trained in a small gym of Catskill, New York, learning his boxing from a veteran teacher named Cus D'Amato. D'Amato had also coached 2 world champions, Floyd Patterson and Jose Torres. So when Stewart's pupil Mike Tyson showed real promise, it was only natural that he would bring Tyson to D'Amato for a tryout. In 1979, the young Mike Tyson first climbed into this ring, and with D'Amato looking on, began to spar with Stewart.
He was 27 years old, Stewart, and a former professional fighter. So obviously someone who should handle a 12-year-old kid. And Tyson showed extraordinary power and forced Stewart to open up to a point just to keep him in his place.
You know, we always won 3 rounds. And after the second round, he was forcing me, pushing me into the corner and stuff. I popped him. It wasn't really that hard, but it made his nose bleed in the spur.
He got a bloody nose. And after the second round, I told him I had seen enough.
And Mike said, we never stop after 2 rounds. We always go 3 rounds. And I saw Cus look over at one of the old timers he was with. And I said, boy, I got his attention already. We went to the 3rd round. He was as good as ever. And right there, I walked over to him, and I walked to Cus. Cus was taking my gloves off. And I said, what do you think? He said, it's a heavyweight champion of the world.
At age 12, after a start that was far from promising, including crime, reform school, and no father, Mike Tyson's life suddenly had possibilities that didn't involve prison. Veteran trainer Cus D'Amato not only agreed to work with the young fighter, he took Tyson into the home he shared with Camille Ewald. The couple already had several young boxers living with them at the time. But when first offered the chance to live in the huge white house with its sprawling lawns, and when told he'd have a room of his own, Tyson couldn't believe it.
He said, here's a kid coming out of a bad setting, going through a lot of stuff fast, moving in, a black kid moving in with I think all white people. It's hard to adjust. I mean, he was scared. When I first brought him down here, I brought him into Cus's driveway. He said, what's this? I said, this is where you're gonna stay. Me? What am I gonna do here? Take the garbage out?
It was like watching a pilot for a movie. Here's this kid, 13 years old, he's in reformatory, his life is about to head towards Attica.
Go to penitentiary like everybody else does.
Every minute that Mr. Tyson is in confinement is a minute of
It
injustice.
had been more than half his lifetime since young Mike Tyson had spent his time behind bars, and Tyson's attorneys battled, unsuccessfully, to keep him out of jail pending an appeal. But the conviction on rape charges proved more than a legal knockdown, and it sounded as if it might be the final bell. Mike Tyson seemed to have destroyed himself as spectacularly as he'd burst upon the scene.
Tyson was never meant to be a great champion. He didn't have the character. He was meant to be a shooting star. He was meant to be a sensational shooting star.
But halfway through his sentence, in an interview, Tyson said that when he emerged from prison, he'd fight again. And he declared he isn't upset with a woman who'd accused him of date rape.
I'm not angry at it. I just despise their actions.
Welcome to Larry King Live. Tonight on our King Size Week, Mike Tyson.
So there's no bitterness? Or is there?
I'm not bitterness, but this is one time I would like to have a little revenge. I always go from this perspective. Whatever happens, and sometimes you hit me with your best shot and we see how I handle it. But when the same thing happens to you, we must always remember never to take it personal. I never take this personal.
Tyson's friends say it was the completion of a tragic circle. Tyson was totally alone. The key figures in his life were gone, just when Iron Mike needed them most.
If any lesson that Mike Tyson has taught me, as my experience is that...
In 1988, there would be 3 successful defenses, culminating in the sensational knockout of Michael Spinks in Atlantic City.
Michael Spinks has keep moving because every shot. Oh,
uppercut landed inside, and Spinks went down.
That is the first time Michael Spinks has ever been down in a professional fight.
And he's down again and in serious trouble.
Now we know why Butch.
But Mike Tyson, the shy kid from Brooklyn with a lisp, had discovered women. Or, more accurately, they had discovered him. He had called himself the Tan Terror as a teenager. But now the papers were calling him Iron Mike.
With fame and money comes attention, and then, you know, things like a lisp or being this big imposing guy, you know, and now all of a sudden your money makes you look good and they don't hear that lisp.
He's Mike Tyson, he's heavyweight champion of the world. Women are literally lining up to meet him. He can pick and choose, and that has to be for a guy who didn't know how to handle women to begin with. An absolutely devastating experience. I mean, it's a kid running amok in a candy store.
When he knocked out Larry Holmes, he had Robin Givens in one section, Naomi Campbell in the second section, and Suzette Charles in the third section, and they were all very classy women. He fell in love with Robin Givens.
Let's get the lead out.
Yes, dear.
Mike Tyson, the world heavyweight champion, had fallen in love. She was an ambitious young actress whose mother always seemed to be in the picture. He was the champ, worth millions, with the potential for hundreds of millions, but considered immature. The match seemed improbable, but the relationship blossomed suddenly.
Wow, this is great. Unbelievable. I'm with Robin Givens, the star head of the class.
She had gone to Sarah Lawrence. I think she was higher class than he ever thought he would obtain. And I think one of Mike's weaknesses was that he always had very low self-esteem.
We fight Larry Holmes. I'm not exactly sure how it went. Before the fight or right after the fight, Robin Givens tells Mike Tyson that she's pregnant with his baby. Ruth Roper gets on the phone to Jimmy Jacobs and Bill Cayton and says, your fighter has made my daughter pregnant. I want him to marry her.
Mike Tyson and Robin Givens were married on February 7th, 1988. In a throwback to his days on these mean streets, Tyson had broken his hand in a street brawl. Behind the scenes, Tyson's personal life had become increasingly bizarre. The arguments between Tyson and his wife, Robin Givens, continued and escalated, with rumors being printed in newspapers about the most intimate details, some of them completely false.
They inserted into Mike's head that Robin was having an affair with Donald Trump. This was the beginning of the end, because this did two things for Don King. It put Mike's perfect marriage on the rocks, and it also cracked the relationship that Donald Trump had with Tyson.
Trump, the prominent New York developer, had tried to straighten out Tyson's increasing financial and management problems and secure Tyson's fights as an attraction for his Atlantic City hotels. For a while, Trump added stability to Tyson's professional life, but his personal life was increasingly troubled. September 4th, 1988, Tyson was raced to a hospital after he smashed his wife's BMW into a tree. Robin Givens rode in the ambulance and almost battled with photographers trying to take Tyson's picture.
Give the guy a break, okay? Give him a break, damn it. Give him a break.
But a newspaper claimed Tyson had attempted suicide after another argument with Givens.
So if anybody wants to kill himself, would he hit the side of the car? He would go straight for the tree. He went on the side of the car. It's scary because I was standing right over here.
I knew it wasn't Mike trying to commit suicide. What I did know is Mike can't drive at all. Mike just can't drive, so I just brushed that off. That was so silly. Why didn't he try it again with another BMW? Had 25 cars. So it was so silly, it was ridiculous.
Michael is intimidating, to say the least. I think that there's a time when he cannot control his temper.
His temper wasn't the only thing getting out of control. Tyson and Robin Givens appeared on the ABC program 2020, and Tyson sat there docilely as his wife ripped him apart on national television. But the most damaging line about the world champion was yet to come.
Michael is a manic depressive. He is. I mean, that's just a fact. And just recently, I've become afraid I mean, very, very much afraid.
I like to raise hell, because that's basically my nature. I mean, coming from my background and everything, but I mean, I'm not a violent.
One of them was going to hurt each other, and she decided to do it that night to expose what they were going to, because Robin never realized that Mike's buttons were being pushed. When we walked into that house, he was a 200-pound gorilla.
Robin does the 20/20 and paints this brutal picture of Mike Tyson. He looked like he was dazed, like he just wasn't there. It was a few days later that he blew his stack.
At no time did the police observe Mr. Tyson strike or threaten anyone.
Blowing his stack, this time, meant a huge argument with Givens in which Tyson reportedly hurled furniture out of the window of the Bernardsville mansion the couple shared. Soon the police arrived. They just as quickly left. But Tyson's marriage was in shambles, as was his image.
They convinced Mike that he was manic depressive, which he wasn't. In fact, Mike actually stated to the press that he was manic depressive. They put him, when I say they hired or retained the services of a psychiatrist who put him on lithium, a very dangerous mind-altering drug, so that, and kept reminding Mike to take the drug, which he should never have taken in the first place.
It was time for major damage control, and Tyson's longtime friend stepped in, hiring their own psychiatrist.
When I saw him, he showed no sign whatsoever of psychotic thinking or behavior, and none of the criteria that are required to establish a diagnosis of manic depressive illness.
Givens was on the way out. But despite the favorable diagnosis, Tyson's temper was so frayed that one morning when he spotted a cameraman taping his training run, he hurled his Walkman at the lens. Tyson wouldn't admit it, but his breakup with Givens was not something he wanted. His friends say he really was in love with his wife.
I made a huge mistake. I forgot what it was like for a young guy to think he was in love, to be in love, to think you're in love, and lose the woman of your dreams, to lose this woman. For whatever reason, Mike was distraught. He was really sad. He didn't show it, he's a professional, but I should have realized he was that sad, that emotionally, and I should have stayed with him. I should have been with him. I should have taken him on a trip somewhere to make him forget his troubles, and he would have been fine. That was my mistake.
Because everything was chaos. I was fighting with a wife, with managers, with promoters and managers fighting. I was torn between everybody because I wanted to be loyal to everyone. I never had a chance to be loyal to myself.
I think he became more and more of a lost soul. Trained less and less, hung out more and more with these pimps and drug dealers and rap musicians. And there was no one in his life to reinforce the positive values, and no one in his life who loved him enough to say, no, you can't do that.
By all accounts, Mike Tyson was headed for a fall. He was still fighting, and for the moment holding on. But those who taught him and saw him rise were seeing their hard work evaporate. February 25th, 1989, Mike Tyson beat underdog Frank Bruno. But Bruno started strong. Tyson, for the first time, seemed less than invincible in the ring.
He'd no longer slip punches. He came right in straight. He didn't bob and weave. He didn't punch in combination. He was no longer the same fighter he was when he was being taught by Kevin Rooney.
He rocks Tyson in the first round. Rocked him. He doesn't finish him. He should have. He doesn't. Mike knocks him out in the fifth round. I saw 100 mistakes. 100.
Tyson wasn't really challenged when he knocked out Carl Williams 5 months later in a first-round walkover. His next scheduled bout was with Buster Douglas, a title defense with someone who should have been an easy opponent, but Tyson seemed to have lost his intensity, the animal power that had propelled him to the top. He was overconfident, out of shape. Buster Douglas was in shape and proved it, blasting Tyson hard.
Douglas landed that punch, but he was beating Mike the whole fight. And if you look at that fight from the introductions on, Mike was not himself. His mind seemed a million miles away. He lacked that animal intensity. It was like an imposter had invaded his body.
Mike never trained for that fight. Mike was in no condition for that fight.
Mike's techniques eroded, and when the other guy starts throwing punches, Mike starts getting hit because he doesn't practice the techniques anymore. And when you add the combination together, and a very finely tuned Buster Douglas, confident, trained, at the right spot at the right time, very relaxed, doing his best. It was the wrong combination for Tokyo, and Mike got knocked out in 10 rounds.
It's over.
It's over. Mike Tyson has been knocked out.
And when I was champion, I gave everybody a chance, and I didn't like anyone making any kind of excuses when I beat them. So by all means, I'm not going to make any excuses. I lost. The reason I lost, not irrelevant. Just a loss is a loss.
You take the bitter with the sweet, so we on crack.
And I still believe I'm the best fighter in the world. Just give me another chance. The titles are meant to be won, and they're meant to be lost. These things happen. But like I said, I'm the former champion. Just give me a rematch.
Tyson wanted to fight Douglas again, but Don King didn't seem to be pushing hard for the rematch. As the controversy swirled, there were even louder questions about the promoter. Allegations that King's side called sour grapes. Complaints that King should not try to be both Tyson's manager and promote his fights.
A manager tries to get as much money for his fighter as possible. A promoter tries to pay the fighter as little as he can because he keeps the difference between the income and what he pays the fighter. So there's a basic conflict of interest between a promoter and a fighter.
Though he'd started his boxing comeback with a series of 4 impressive victories, Tyson went out of the gym, was alone and isolated. Then Don King asked him to come to the Miss Black America pageant in Indianapolis, saying it would help his tarnished image. Tyson's bodyguard and chauffeur says Tyson was in no mood to go, having spent the day at a memorial service for a friend.
Don insisted that he do this Indianapolis thing. He needed to do this because he needed to go there and represent all the black people of America, and it's your duty, you're a black man, and he hides behind that black rage of black and black and black, and finally he gets to this guy to a point where he says, all right, I'll go. Just leave me alone. Get us 2 tickets and we'll be there. I was on that USF flight with Mike Tyson that morning prior to boarding when Dale Everett's, Mike Tyson's, Don King's nephew, police officer, shows up that Don King has a new set of orders, that they're escorting Mike Tyson to Indianapolis, and I'm to drive one of the Ferraris back to Ohio and wait for Mike to come home.
Hello, my name is Desiree.
Mike Tyson would later say his evening with Desiree Washington hadn't seemed that out of the ordinary to him. But the teenage Miss Black America contestant story, told to a 911 operator, was of a date she'd remember for all the wrong reasons.
I went out with this person in the limousine that night, and the person told me that he had to go in to get his bodyguard and asked me if I wanted to come in for a second. And I said, oh, okay, fine, thinking that this was a nice person. And we went in, and the person started attacking me.
The report coming into Indianapolis Police Headquarters July 19, 1991, was the kind of sad story police hear all the time. But this time, the accused rapist, a world-renowned heavyweight boxer.
I came out of the bathroom, and this person was in his underwear, and he just basically kind of did what he wanted to do, and he kept saying, don't fight me, and I was like saying, no, get off me, please, get off me, and he was like, don't fight me, and the person was a lot stronger than I was, and he just did what he wanted, and I was saying, stop, please, stop, and he just didn't stop, and okay, now who's wrong?
Mike Tyson had met Washington when he was brought to the Miss Black America pageant by promoter Don King. The visit was a publicity stunt in the middle of Tyson's preparation for his first big money fight after losing the World Heavyweight Championship. Tyson had asked Washington out on a date. She'd accompanied him back to room 606 in the Canterbury Hotel, his room, well after midnight. Tyson's account of what happened, recorded on audio tape when he testified before a grand jury, was that the only thing he'd done wrong was not treating Washington nicely after they had sex. He hadn't walked her to the door.
I said, I want you. She said, I want to be me and you alone.
Yeah.
I want you.
Yeah.
Okay, what did she say?
She said, okay, just call me.
Did you say anything else?
No, I had to leave.
He's grabbed every woman in town.
Mike Tyson was used to fans and victories. But when he came to the Marion County Courthouse, he was headed for the worst defeat of his life. Tyson would see what was left of his glory stripped from him, as a jury of 8 men and 4 women convicted the former world heavyweight boxing champion of rape. Sentenced to 6 years in prison, Tyson was led away in handcuffs.
He's been convicted beyond a reasonable doubt. He's a convicted felon.